Our Police Minister Bheki Cele visited protest-hit Westbury in Western Johannesburg earlier. Residents want new officers in the area, saying they don't trust the local police there. The community is accusing law enforcement of being in cahoots with gangsters and drug dealers. But before we go to Minister Bheki Cele, let's get some perspective. Michael Marilia has been tracking that particular story for us. Michael, certainly you've been taking a look at some of the numbers and the policing situation in Westbury. What have you found?
Yeah, Kathy, some interesting figures coming out of the police's latest crime statistics. 973 deaths linked to gang activity in the year 2017-2018. That's just under 5% of total murders recorded for that particular period. So no doubt a concern for the police minister, who you'll be chatting to in a moment. Just looking at the provincial breakdown, Kathy, a massive problem in the Western Cape. 808 gang-related murders last year. Gauteng registered just 14 on the official records, placing it fourth in terms of the provincial breakdown. But if you take a look at Westbury specifically, you get a very different picture. But before we get to that community, just some of the other issues which police are having to deal with in Gauteng. Take a look at the figures for mob justice murders, more than 260. Taxi-related violence, also a big problem, 110 murders linked to that. So certainly looking at the big picture, lots of concerns, not just gang-related problems. Westbury now, and we'll start with drug-related crimes in this community. We saw the figures peak in 2014-15, above 1,500. They seem to have dropped in the last year on the police records to 570, but a lot of the residents in that community saying that the police are working hand in hand with drug lords, and they don't trust the official figures. Let's take a quick look at murder numbers. Now, 33 murders registered by the Sophia Town station in 2017-2018. That was slightly down, Kathy, from the previous year where we saw 36. But it has not been a particularly good period for this community. 27 murders in 2015-16, and 2014 there were 16 murders. So over the last 4 or 5 years, the number of murders registered at this station have almost doubled, Kathy. Of course, a major worry for anyone living in Westbury. A similar trend emerging when it comes to attempted murders. 32 cases opened in 2014. It spiked in 2016 with 55, and we saw some progress last year, Kathy, with 42 cases opened. But anyone living in Westbury will take you back to this figure. 2011-2012, just 14 cases of attempted murder opened at the Sophia Town station. And interestingly enough, Kathy, the police commissioner at the time was a man by the name of Bheki Cele, who is now our police minister. Hopefully his latest plan will yield similar results, if not even better results, and you're about to talk to him.
All right, so thanks for that, Michael, for putting us into the picture there. So certainly, Minister, by the looks of things, at least if the numbers are anything to go by, there has been a point where the gang-related violence and at least the murders and attempted murders in Westbury were seemingly somewhat under control, if 14 cases is anything to go by. What do you think happened? What changed?
Good afternoon, Kathy, and everybody else there. You are going back to the questions they asked me when we were releasing the stats. I said we dropped the ball. We really dropped the ball as a South African police. Don't ask me who. I put it upon the shoulders of the South African. These figures that are given here, they tally very well with the national figures of murder and other things like attempted murder. The same year, you see here, 2011, 2012, we had 15,000 murders. Now we have almost 21,000. So last 6 years, we have just taken off like the jet, which then increases these other areas that they feed to the national figure. And hence we have said, as a South African police, we have dropped the ball let's work in the correction of those things, and that ball that we have dropped, let's pick it up and make life
In
better.
practical terms, what does dropping the ball mean? What have police not been doing, at least from your perspective, from your analysis, that has resulted and created the situation?
Well, I hope you will invite people that were there to ask that question. And
No, but
answer.
surely as you look at the records.
I'll give
Sure.
my perspective. I'll give my perspective. One thing that has happened, Kathy, 2010, we had 200,000 police in South Africa. At the present moment, we are 10,000 down of those figures. That's one. And there were units that were created. One of those units, quite popular, in Kats, in the township, they call it Amaberet. The real name of that unit is TROT, Technical Response Teams. So that team was there to take care of cash heist, to take care of pickpocketing, housebreaking, and all that. The third one that we created, especially here in KZN and Gauteng, was called a tracking team. Their job was to wake up early in the morning and make sure that they get the criminals we want. That team was dismantled after that year. Fourthly, we bought the top performing cars for these units. I'm not going to call the names of the cars, but they were top. As we left that unit, some of them were dismantled and the cars were taken to stations. I don't know why you take a 10-seater to back to the station and high-performing car back to the station commander. And then there was hell of a demoralization and dismantling of the units that were working. That's part of it.
Today, you were faced with a situation where residents had called for you to come out. Why didn't you go out there sooner?
Well, look, it would be presumptuous and of myself and a bit arrogant, Kathy, to say whenever there is a problem, so I must really run there. It will be. There are people that are working in those particular areas. There are people that they can go and speak to the communities, they have the response and all that. I'm not going to take...
But Minister, who would think it's presumptuous of you? You are the National Police Minister.
Indeed.
And so when there is any situation relating to safety and security and communities are raising concerns, do you not feel that it is your right to, in fact, it is your responsibility to go to those communities?
And duty. And remember, that duty does not fall upon me alone. That's why we have provincial commissioners, national commissioners, MACs, who were there on Friday, Kathy. They did go there, on the provincial commissioner and the MAC did go to the place. And then I think, again, yesterday, the provincial commissioner was there, but there was this call that continued to go. Not that I'm waiting to be called, but let's allow all structures and everybody to work there and make sure that there are many things that are happening all over, and they don't go there and things they get sorted. But if the community does make a call, one really need to respond. Today was a very, very serious cabinet day, but the president allowed me to go and deal with the matter. The seriousness we're taking the matter through.
And what are you doing to expedite the concerns that have been raised by the community? Obviously, it's an indictment on the provincial commissioners, on even the provincial representatives, because these community, especially in Westbury in particular, say that their concerns have gone unattended to for years now.
Well, there is several issues. One, there is a behavior of our members at Westbury Police Station. They say we're in cohorts with the truck loads, we don't respond and all that. Immediately, because there was a national commissioner there, we have instituted the investigation. They have said, now I must take the police and go away with them. It can't happen that way. We'll have to follow all the procedures. If we find that somebody has gone wrong, there is a consequential management to deal with that. The second one, they requested the unit I've spoken about called TROT. They say they request them to make sure that they patrol their street because they've got a capacity in their training of taking the gangsters on. We had sent 20 around that station. We have added, I think we're putting 10 to 15 more to make them visible, to be able to go there. That's one thing that we have agreed.
When did you send this 20?
The 20 was there for some time now. I think that would be 2 weeks.
So basically, you sent them now in the wake of these protests that we're seeing?
Well, as I'm saying, they are not for ordinary policing, Kathy. Are there to respond to the medium and high risk kind
yes,
of
but
thing.
the point I'm making is that you did send them, but it was after the fact.
No, before. They were sent 2 weeks back. This started, Kathy, on Thursday or Friday. Not because of this uprising now. They were already there in the police station when the uprising started.
Minister, who takes responsibility when the situation is like this? I understand that you are the national figurehead, but when it comes to accountability at a local or at a provincial level, how do you hold the officials that are here accountable? Because at least if what community members are anything to go by, they're part of the reason why there's been this failure of policing in that area. How do you hold them accountable as the minister?
Well, if you look at the constitution of South Africa, you go to 205 sub 3. The job of the South African police is 2053 is to prevent, combat, and investigate crime, and make sure that South African inhabitants are safe and enforce the law. Those are the levels, Kathy. The political authority of policing resides at the national minister. The administration and implementation resides both national and provinces. That's why they are national and provincial.
Yes, but I'm asking you, how do you hold them accountable?
Is exactly what I'm trying to explain. I'm giving you where the authority resides at the end of the day. For instance, provincial commissioners are finally responsible to the provincial government, especially this premier. For instance, if the National Commission wants to employ the provincial commissioner, cannot send the provincial commissioner to this province if the premier says no. So the responsibility starts with the provincial government in terms of administration and comes back to the national commissioner, but overall it will end up with the national minister.
So in a situation like this where you have to fix a problem that has clearly been allowed to deteriorate to the extent that it has, who do you go in? Who are you going to be going into meeting with
to ask for
accountability?
The national commissioner. And national commissioner.
And have you done that?
That's why I was with him there. That's why I pulled him out on other jobs today to go there. That's why I've pulled him in other jobs tomorrow to be in Western Cape for almost the similar thing, so that he's got the first hand. And after that, I do demand the report. How did we arrive to this situation? Answers, and then we take it from there.
So what then will accountability look like from here on going forward?
Why should I really come here before that is happening?
But I'm just saying, talk us through the process of how you're going to hold the National Commissioner accountable so that we can
I'm not going to take you to that process until that process is informed by procedures. And then otherwise, I'll be prejudging the whole situation to say, as you see me here, I do 1, 2, 3. I need to be informed. If it is, for instance, Kathy, in the government situation, National Commissioner is a DG. If I have a problem with the DG, I want to investigate, I need to request another DG to do that. And then it should be informed at that level. It should be informed processes and procedures that tell me what should I do.
Do you think that the Commissioner is on top of things? If you had to call him out to come with you?
Well, I have no reason to say he's not on top of things. For now, I'm fine, I'm satisfied. But when and if things keep going, you need to sit down and check.
Let's talk about tomorrow. You'll also be in Bishop Lavis, as far as I understand. That's another community that, again, has been protesting for years. You know, the story is almost the same. And it's interesting that, residents are finally getting a response, but also, there's that nagging consciousness of the fact that we are going into an election year. So how much of this also plays into the politics of the day, that these residents are finally seeing action now that they hadn't seen before?
I think you are just a lucky bunch if you are South African police, because people do many things that culminate as a scene of the police. If you go to Western Cape, I don't know if you have seen the letter they wrote for the shutdown there. They raised too many things, your electricity, your water, shortage of housing, streets themselves, all those things, including, Kathy, security situation, which I do agree. But people, they look at the police, people don't respond and all that kind of stuff. But let me say to you, for security, it's not true that we're doing those things because we're going for election. It's only Western Cape up to this point where we have pulled 300 extra police. We took them there under Operation Thunder. We sent and opened the bases in different townships. There are communities. If I take you to Eidseg, they have said to me, written even the letter, thanks, Minister of Police, for our kids to be able to play outside after 6. It should be normal. It should be so. It should not be a special duty and all that. I agree with that. But nobody comes back to say, we have done for Western Cape and Western Cape alone. We thought we'll stay there for 3 months. The community has demanded to say, you know what, Taylor? This is nice, but these police are going nowhere anymore. We are not removing these bases. So it had nothing to do with election. It had to do with the response to the community cries.
And, you know, we've run out of time, Minister, but very briefly, lastly, this, of course, as you go into the communities and you see the extent of the criminal activity, there's a call that has been made continuously, and it's brought up by the government in the Western Cape for the army to go into these communities. Are you giving any more consideration to a request like that?
You know why I'm smiling when you raise this thing? There are no communities that are raising that is political parties, in particular one political party. Today, 10 people spoke there, Kathy, in the platform. Not a single person, not one. In Western Cape, I've moved many communities, not once. Actually, they've come out to the communities in Western Cape. Nyanga said, don't bring army here. But the political party keeps insisting, and the media picks the political party on behalf of the people. Let the people speak for themselves, not political parties speaking on their behalf.
All right, Minister. We've run out of time, unfortunately. Let me thank you for your time on Newsnight. It's been great.